Hey everyone, I'm Tommy's Creation and welcome to the World of Keralis creative server. Over the last couple months, I've been on a grind building castles such as CorvinCastle and also Schloss Liechtenstein. Now over these past two builds, I've actually learned quite a bit with laying out castles as well as building at an angle, and I thought today would be a great time to build another castle and to show you the process that I follow when building. So we're back on the Anthea map on World of Keralis, and I went ahead and picked a very nice little peninsula where I will be building a French chateau. More specifically, the French chateau that I'll be building is Chateau de Val. And in today's episode, we are going to be laying out the castle plans for our build. Now, there is actually one problem. So this is the beautiful Chateau de Val, as you can see here, and it's not a very complex castle, but there isn't very much online, at least when I was Google searching, in regards to floor plans. Now, that's actually okay when we don't have floor plans. That means that there's more wiggle room on our end to have increased imagination, as well as just a little bit of math to make this build more fun. Or, in this case, more freedom in what we want to do. Now, all that's needed for this episode is Minecraft. However, I've listed Modrinth, World Edit, and the Walk Pack resource pack that I use, which you can download on Modrinth for this video. So really just Minecraft and some building. I'll be using some Google Images, and we'll be making our floor plan. And there are 6 towers on this build, 3 of which are different sizes. So the very first thing I did was lay out my circle sizes. So you can see them here. Go ahead and pause on the screen to see the count of how I made these circles. And we're going to use these circles combined with this rectangular shape of our castle to build out what we think the scaling will be. So I'm going to build my floor plan off the ground to start. That way we don't have any issues with the terrain, and we will actually be building the castle back down into the terrain later on. And I'm going to start by laying out the largest circle and marking out the very corner with red wool. Please pay attention to the red wool. It's very important for measurements. Next, from the circle, I'm going to count out 16 blocks. And I'll use the second largest circle here, sticking a little bit more out, so protruding out a bit more from the first tower. Here, also marking out the point of the center circle that crosses the wall. From there, it's another 11 blocks out. And then we'll finish off this front part of the castle with the other large circle. Once again, I'm building this all by hand to showcase that you don't necessarily need World Edit, but you are more than welcome to copy paste the sections, especially these circles here if you don't want to build them back out. And I will go ahead and mark out the final corner here in the center of this circle for a total length of the castle of 50 blocks. Now we're going to start on the width. We'll go ahead and build 12 blocks back, and we'll put in the back right-hand side the small tower marking out the center point. The width of our castle will be 23 blocks. Now working on the back side, I'll count 13 blocks, and I will build another center tower. This center tower will be the same size as the front center, and it's actually in the same point in the length of the castle, but it's gonna stick out less. So you can see here it's actually 2 blocks into the wall compared to the front, but I will use the red line here to show that they are in fact the same distance. Then from there, 15 blocks, and then we'll finish off the main building here with the last back left tower, the same size as what we started with, marking off the center point here and filling that space in. I'm also going to go ahead and mark the center point here as well, just to have an idea of scaling. But once again, please pay attention to the red points for the circles, as it will be very important when we take this castle as an angle. And finally, just to finish off, there is an arch feature in this castle, so 2 blocks, 8 blocks, and then 3 blocks for the arch. So let's go ahead and make this angled. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to make the main body of the castle angled. And I'm going to do that by simply just building up a few more blocks to use this first scaling as a reference. And I'm going to use some math to simply just build out my angle. You can use World Edit, but World Edit is very specific and a little clunky. I know that with 50 blocks, I can do equal sections of 5 to create my angle that I'm looking for. So I'm going to go 5 blocks at a time, 5 blocks out, 1 block over, 5 blocks out, 1 block over for a total of 10 sections. And I will continue to mark my corners with the red wool. Now the backside is 23 blocks, and that's on purpose. We're actually going to be creating a center point. So once again, using a little bit of math, I know if I go with a width of 5, 4, 5, 4, 5, I can create a center point for my diagonal. And then I actually did cheat a bit here. I used some World Edit to copy paste the front section, so I didn't have to redo the 10 back. But you can see here we now have a shifted rectangular body based on the measurements of our first floor plan. And I'm also going to remap out these center lines again, just to confirm that my angles are right and equal. And we can see here that we do actually get that nice cross feature again. And I'm going to go ahead and remark the center point just to know for future. So now we can take the circles that we first built, and this time I will be copy pasting them. You can build them by hand. And we're going to use the center points from the first floor plan as our reference. So we're going to start with the 3 biggest towers because they all paste from the middle. So I'll paste them here. The reason why I don't need to shift these towers by hand, or why I am not shifting them by hand, is because the circles already have a ton of angles and it'd be very complicated to do so. So we're keeping them the same, and instead what we did was shift only the rectangular body of the castle. I also went ahead and pasted in the small tower in the back left, as it was quite easy. But you do need to pay attention to the center mid-sized towers. They are slightly different on each side, so you do have to copy and paste twice. To be aware of that, you can see here I lined up my copy paste with the tower cross points there. Oh, hey buddy. I am on a server, so people do like to drop on. And then finally by hand, I just fill out the art circle following the same body of the original plan here. And at this point, now that I've built this main portion, I can delete the part underneath. And now we can see we are left with our final version here. Go ahead and pause for the numbers to make sure that yours looks as close as mine. Now, we might be done, but there's actually another building of this castle. So you can see here on the floor plan that there is this second building here. I believe it is the chapel, maybe the stables or some extra storage. I did the same thing. I laid it out at a completely 90-degree angle and then did some math. But for video's sake, I'm shorthanding it. I do know that this portion of the build, this building was slightly smaller. So instead of 50 blocks long, I'm going 45 blocks long. So 9 sections instead of 10. And instead of 23 back, I went 19 back. So pay attention to this width here. We're actually working with 4, 4, 3, 4, 4. So we're still maintaining that center line. But it is different than what we originally had on our castle. And I went ahead and just marked out a portion for the chapel side. It has a slightly different roof line, so I thought it would be pretty nice to have that marked out separately. And I did a little punch out for the altar right here, so you can see that I do follow the shape of the main building there. And then I simply just close off the other side here, once again following that same pattern, 4, 4, 3, 4, 4. Now, the very last thing that I'm going to do is add in a side tower. I went ahead and just built this by hand because I didn't really have a clue at first how I wanted it to look. I'm simply using the mid-sized tower design, laying it out here. I actually wished that it could be punched out a bit more, so I am going to shift it out one more block. So if you're wondering the exact measurement from that red corner, it's 3 green blocks out, and then we have the circle here. And so just a little bit more cleanup, but you can see as I zoom out, we are now left with the chapel and stables just next to the main castle, angled, about 90 degrees off to the side. Once again, these are not final points for these. These are simply just markers from where I want my castle to be. But this is what it's looking like on the peninsula. And from here, we can actually start building up our castle. So I'd like to thank you all so much for making it out this far. If you'd like to come check this build out, you can come on the World of Keralis. If not, look forward and subscribe for part 2.